On today's show, 3 things are holding the Chicago Bears back. Can they fix them? I think they can, and if they do, this thing could look a whole lot better. We talk about it here on today's show. The Chicago Bears need to fix the little things and the details, which is something Ben Johnson has harped on since he has been here. We're going to talk about 3 areas that the Bears continue to come up short in, and if they can clean those up, then, I think they can win some games here and continue to build this thing moving forward. My name is Harrison Graham. Let's get to the first one. The obvious one that we can all see that someone with a low football IQ could understand is this team has way too many penalties. And listen, Scott Bear put out the stat on Twitter. I'll give him credit that the Bears are the second most penalized team per game, and their opponents are the second least penalized team. I do think they have been on the bad end of some ref luck, but I think we can also understand by watching these games, as they are second in the NFL in penalties per game, there's way too many self-inflicted wounds. Yes, there's a few BS penalties per game that the Bears get clipped for. I watched games around the league. There's bad officiating everywhere. I do think the Bears have been on the wrong end of it. I'm not trying to say they haven't, but to just sit here and say that they are not responsible for a lot of these penalties, pre-snap stuff, not lining up right, silly holds, shot blocking on a kickoff, or a illegal low block. These are just technique things. These are things that you're just taught in practice to not do, and they're doing them. And if they clean those up, which again self-inflicted, then you cut these penalties down even just by 20%. You're gonna be in a much better position, and especially offensively, where these penalties are just killing a lot of these drives. It's hurting you in the red zone, which we'll get to here in a minute. Ben Johnson said on Monday regarding the penalty issues, he says, "We here as coaches, we're going to help support these guys and be along with them. But it would go a long way if we had just a little bit more ownership in that locker room to take the bull by the horns so we get this cleaned up." Number one, very refreshing. That accountability is a two-way street. Matt Eberflus never understood that, so that's good. But number two, the players got to own this too. Everyone has a hand in these issues. Coaches, assistant coaches, players. Are they putting too much on the plate of players at times? There's blame to be had around, but I like that Ben's challenging these guys. Hey, vets on this team, guys who have been there, let's grab this thing, let's take ownership of it, and let's fix it. Joe Thuney's not a super vocal guy, but this is where he's got to step up in that offensive line room and say, guys, we got to stop false starting. False starts, pre-snap stuff, a lot of it can be connected to the quarterback. Who doesn't have pre-snap penalties? Joe Thuney. He got clipped for one against the Ravens. He didn't move. It was a bad call. 0 penalties on the year. Outside of that, every other offensive lineman has had pre-snap issues. So I'm not saying it's not on the quarterback and some of the cadence stuff, but the other guys got to take ownership too. Caleb certainly does. Ben does. Everyone does. Guys on defense, special teams, penalties left and right. Too many penalties. Look per game. Week 1, okay, first game in a new offense, somewhat understandable. 12 for 127 yards. Okay, big improvement week 2. 8 for 50. Not nearly as bad. Certainly Dallas, big improvement. If you were in that Dallas-Detroit range, it's still too many, but compared to what you've been in the other 4 games, 8 for 60 against the Raiders, 9 for 84. The alarming thing to me is coming out of the bye week. 9 for 84, 10 for 92, 11 for 79. You're averaging 10 penalties per game since the bye for about 85 yards. It's way too many. The Bears literally lined up wrong on a punt. A legal formation on a punt, which, by the way, was a perfect punt down to the 1-yard line. What happens? The Ravens take the penalty, they re-kick, out of bounds at the 22. It's a 21-yard penalty. It can't happen. It gave them 2 first downs. 2 first downs because you didn't line up properly on a punt. That's inexcusable. Sometimes you're going to have a defensive pass interference. Sometimes you're going to get a tough roughing the passer call. There's certain things that you can live with. Lining up improperly on special teams is unacceptable. If you're on special teams, you're on the team because of special teams, not because you contribute heavily on offense or defense. That can't happen. Multiple false starts week after week, it's got to end. Of course, you're not going to be perfect, but you don't want to lead the league in these type of categories. And the Bears have been getting away with it for a few weeks now, and it bit them in the ass against Baltimore. It was too much to overcome when other things weren't going your way. Subscribe to the channel. We got coverage all year long here on Chicago Bears Now. The latest news, rumors, injury updates, trade buzz, and a whole lot more. If you want to join the movement here, hit that subscribe button. All right, 2 more key areas that I want to dive into when it comes to the Chicago Bears and what needs to be fixed. But first, we got to show some love to our awesome sponsor, PrizePicks. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather may be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. It's very user-friendly, the PrizePicks app. You can toggle by sports, and then you start selecting individual players and their stat projections. The way to set lineups, you pick 2 or more players, up to 6 players, choose more or less on their stat projections, and if you hit, you win money. A really cool feature on PrizePicks, and this is because they have your back, is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half of a game and doesn't return, PrizePicks will not hold that against you. They will not count that as a loss. So, for example, I got a 3-player lineup for this upcoming week. Caleb Williams more than 230.5 passing yards. I took less on Chase Brown's rushing yards. He's been better recently, but the Bears have been pretty solid against the run. And then I took more on DeAndre Swift's rushing yards. If one of these players were to get hurt in the first half of the game and not return, that 3-player lineup turns into a 2-player lineup. So pretty cool feature with PrizePicks. They've got your back. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, from penalties to red zone woes, and some of that ties together, by the way. A lot of these drives getting stalled short is because you're having those self-inflicted penalties once you get into the red zone. Since week 3, so post-week 3, the Bears have been brutal in the red zone. And it's kind of crazy to think about it, but I remember it at the time. In the first 3 weeks, the Bears were excellent in the red zone. Look at the red zone effectiveness by game, and this is touchdown rate. So, if you kick a field goal in the red zone, that doesn't count in this stat. Like against the Raiders, 1 for 4. They kicked, I think, 2 field goals and had a turnover in there, so that's why it's 1 for 4. But Vikings week 1, 2 for 2. Lions week 2, 2 for 2. Dallas, 2 for 3. Really good. 6 for 7. On 7 trips in the red zone the first 3 weeks, 6 touchdowns. 6-7, you know what I'm saying? Let's get back to that 6 for 7 range. Raiders week 4, 1 for 4. Too many field goals. Week 6 against Washington, 1 for 3. Too many field goals. Week 7 against the Saints, 2 for 6. Had to kick 4 field goals. Week 8 against Baltimore, 1 for 3. I think some of this conversation around Caleb Williams right now, that's starting to get a little loud, fair or not. If you're just better in the red zone like you were earlier in the year, I think the conversation shifts significantly. You're scoring more touchdowns. His overall stats look better. You feel better about where things are going. And, that's why I'm not fully panicking on him right now, because we've seen them do well in the red zone. And what does that tell you? They're getting into the red zone. They just have to finish 11 for 23. That's just abysmal. And in the last four games, 5 for 16. They're down to 24th, 25th overall, 31.3% right there. If that was their season-long number, that's easily worse than the NFL. So for the past month, they have been the worst red zone offense in the league in terms of converting into touchdowns. You have to score touchdowns in this league, especially on the road. Especially on the road. Perfect example in Baltimore. You dominate the first quarter. You go straight down the field the opening drive. You get down to the 3-yard line. Weird stretch play to Kyle Monungai. Theo Benedict beat on 3rd down, take a sack, got to kick a field goal. Okay, drive down again. I think technically that second possession didn't quite reach the end zone, but you stall out the 21. If you score even just 1 touchdown there and it's 10-0 instead of 6-0, the pressure really ramps up on Tyler Huntley. Really ramps up. But down 6-0, you're like, man, we've played like shit, talking about Baltimore here, and we put together one drive, we take the lead. Now the momentum and the pressure shifts. And that's exactly what happened. You have to take advantage when you get into the red zone and punch it in. You're not going to bat 1,000. 31% though, this isn't baseball. 315, you're not getting into the Hall of Fame in the NFL. Like, you got to be better in converting those into touchdowns. I'm not asking for 6 for 7, although that would be nice. But can we get back to middle of the pack? Can we get to, how about 55%, 60%? Let's be better than what they've been the last few weeks. If they're just 50% during this stretch, I think the conversation around the quarterback's a lot different, and that's just a few plays here and there. It's the little details that make a big difference in the NFL. And then lastly, special teams. There's been good moments, and I thought last week against the Saints was one of the better special teams games of the year for Richard Hightower's unit. But for a large portion of this season, not the whole unit necessarily, but kickoff returns and kickoff coverage in particular, they've been really bad. They don't get splash returns off, and Duvernay had that one on Sunday, and you crapped that opportunity away, so I'll give him that. But every other return was short of the 30, I believe, and you had multiple penalties on special teams. Josh Blackwell fumbled the ball once, was lucky to recover. They're just not winning in this area of the game. And field position is huge in the NFL, especially off kickoffs. That's why they moved the touchback from the 30 to the 35, because the data tells you even those just 5 yards make a substantial difference. That's why teams aren't kicking it out of the end zone anymore. And yet the Bears seemingly are giving up kickoffs past the 30 consistently and a lot past the 35. But on the flip side, they're not getting to the 30 often. So they're losing that battle. I'd have to check the exact yardage week by week. I'd have to calculate every kickoff. But I would say safely they're losing that by at least 5 yards per game on average, per kickoff on average. That's half a first down. I mean, that adds up over the course of a game and the course of a season. And Devin Duvernay, God bless him, he catches the ball. That's an upgrade over Velus Jones. He did have the nice 48-yard return on Sunday, but he's averaging less than 26 yards per return, and that's with the 49-yarder in there. And on punt, listen, he catches it. He'll give you anywhere from 7 to 10 yards. It's just there's no splash. There's no splash plays whatsoever. And, look, teams are kicking away from Luther Burden. I would too, but long term, I think you got to find something better back there. But what you really can control and be better at is the coverage part of it. Stop giving up 35-yard returns consistently. You just have to be better with your lane integrity and obviously tackling. Several missed tackles in the last game against Baltimore. And they've had a lot of penalties on special teams. Blocks in the back. They had a illegal low block on a rare good return. I think Duvernay got to the 33, 34. That drive starts at the 17 because of a personal foul. I mean, in today's NFL, if you're starting inside your own 20 on a kickoff, one of two things happen. One, it was an atrociously blocked return or the returner did something reckless. Or two, you had a penalty. And yet, I feel like the Bears somewhat frequently are inside their own 20 and certainly inside their own 30 when they're starting these drives. And that adds up after a while, especially when your opponent is starting on the plus or at least the 30 or better pretty consistently. And then on top of that, while you haven't missed a lot of kicks this year, the two you have missed this year, or the two Cairo has missed, has been from 50 plus. One he doinked in week 1. It was from 50. He's in range there. He can make that kick. Okay, whatever. The one at the end of the half, though, I get it. 58 on a fire drill kick is not a gimme, even for a big-legged kicker. But to kick it short, and I actually thought he struck it fairly well for him, I don't know, man. Like, I've defended this guy. I've even said, listen, he's better than a lot of alternatives because and I still believe this, when he's in range, he's pretty damn accurate. He is. The numbers show that. But there are kicks that he can't make or can't even attempt that you see being made consistently. You guys watch Chris Boswell, Sunday Night Football? I think he had like 3 56-yarders. Like, it just boom, boom, boom. Like, you're like sweating out a 56-yarder. That's like right on the edge of his range. We saw him come up short on a 58-yarder. This kicker debate, it didn't really get brought up on Monday, but big picture, like, I don't know. Do you just give Jake Moody the keys and see what happens? I get it's a risk, but it's less of a risk knowing that Cairo is a 33-year-old weak-legged kicker. It'd be one thing if he was 27, be like, well, he doesn't have the strongest leg, but he's reliable. How long is he going to kick in this league? His leg's not going to get stronger as he gets older. Jake Moody has flaws. He struggled in San Francisco, but he's been good here. You would just hate to lose that guy, and he'd be really good somewhere else as a young, potentially ascending talented kicker. And then at the end of the season, you're like, oh, crap, we need a kicker. Like, that would really suck. So keep an eye on this. I'm more concerned in the short term on the return stuff. You got to start winning that battle more frequently. But big picture, this kicker situation's starting to get pretty interesting. All right, what is the biggest thing on this team that must be cleaned up? Notice I'm not really pointing to specific individuals. Obviously, a lot of players are intertwined with all this. The kickers, Devin Duvernay, Caleb Williams with the red zone stuff and the penalties, other players. So just biggest thing. And if you want to just say a player and his play, that's fine. But what do you think is the biggest thing that must get cleaned up? I think if you cut down on the penalties and improve in the red zone, it would make a big difference. A big difference. And those are things that you can get better at. And yes, the defense is paid to make money, or they're making money too. But 5 for 16 in the red zone, that's atrocious. Even 8 for 16 is below average, but that's 3 more touchdowns. That's 12 more points. 4 points extra per drive instead of kicking field goals. That adds up. That absolutely adds up. All right, that's going to do it for Chicago Bears now. 3 areas that the Bears need to clean up if they want to go from being this average, above average-ish team to a good team, which I think is achievable. Hopefully they can do it. Bear down.